Hello and welcome back to another Digging the Game. In this series we play computer games as archaeologists, applying archaeological thought and theory as we play, but also hopefully having fun as we go. And today we're going to be diving back into The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I have 3 places to show you today, a couple of places in the desert, and one is a Citadel ruin which was requested on the previous Breath of the Wild video that we did. Now, before we head into the desert, I need to get into appropriate clothing. Believe it or not, Link cannot just wander in wearing essentially winter gear. So we need to get dressed for the desert, or he'll overheat. And he is, yes, wearing ladies' clothing. This is because the town that we're stood outside of, interestingly, from an anthropological perspective, this is fascinating, it's a town occupied by women only. It's a female. Well, it's basically a female society. They do, oddly though, have these classes inside the town, which sort of teach them all about romance. It's probably worthwhile just popping over there. I was sort of showing this to Mrs. Soup the other day, and she was sort of like, yeah, Amazonians. But then when I showed her this classroom through here, hang on, she thought, oh, okay, slightly undermines the power. When they're all going, oh, but I need a man. So here you go, look. The teacher teaching them all about love between men and women on the board there. And let's see. Oh, you're interested in sitting in on my class, Vo and you. Vo being the word for men. It may even teach you a thing or two. There's no hurry. We won't be starting until everyone's arrived. Now, that's not why we're here today. But anyway, anthropologically, it is interesting. A little town that is women only. So Link has to disguise himself as a woman to get in at one point in the story. Now, I am here today to show you a very particular set of ruins, and then another set of ruins out to the east of the desert as well. So let's head out. And off we go. So this is where we started, just outside this little shrine here. And the ruins are of interest. They're interesting, first of all, from an archaeological perspective. They're interesting ruins. There are certain things that you can sort of say about them archaeologically. But then they're also interesting from the sort of the computer game archaeological perspective, in so much as they have been designed as ruins with the purpose in mind. Which is something which keeps coming up in computer games as we play them, is this idea of ruins, as a designed object. So there's this slight pedestal here. There's at the far end of the ruins, and if we just look at the map, just zoom out a little bit. So here are the ruins here, and they extend out in this direction towards the northern ICEHOUSE over there, and I suppose, first of all, they're intriguing because they're north-south. They have a north-south, interesting, alignment, a north-south alignment, and nothing else in the desert appears to share that north-south alignment. So Gerudo town is sort of northeast-southwest. These bits of rock here, and there's nothing really that shares that. So it's very definitely, as it were, totally 100% an oddity, man-made obviously, but someone's chosen to have this north-south alignment. The ruins themselves are fairly chunky, sort of reminiscent, I guess, of ancient Egypt, but also with some Mesoamerican influence thrown in. If we look at the patterns on the rockwork, for example here, quite clearly sort of quasi-Mayan, and also the ruins are replete with monsters. But I'll try not to burn myself to death. Get away. See, we have some more Mayan influence here on the ruins. But it's things like, for example, the way that these ruins have fallen apart, or rather have been designed, that intrigues me. For example, the way that this arch has supposedly slipped, but unless in the two halves slipping, the alignment between the arches has maintained quite nicely. And there's just been a little broken bit in the middle there. Oh, in fact, what's there? A treasure chest. Can I open this treasure chest? Can I get this treasure chest? Doo-doo-doo-doo. There we go. You see, if I wasn't looking at the archaeology, I never would have found the treasure chest. So I think I'll... Oh, I have to drop you, I think. Thank you. Now, it does beg the question, what are these ruins designed for? We see we have another archway over here. So at one point the arch over here did look like that. But we have this this drop in the middle of this I suppose processual way. And it does feel like a processual way, doesn't it? It feels like it's traffic is being guided in two different directions. They've got this entrance almost halfway along, where people can come down to this entrance way and then go back up away from this I don't know, middle gathering area. And as we proceed, the only thing that, well, not even the only thing that bothers me, the thing that really stands out to me archaeologically is the lack of symmetry. This is a very asymmetrical set of ruins. There's no repetition, despite it being, broadly speaking, symmetrical. For example, this half here is very different to this half here. And if we're looking currently to the south, in terms of the north-south alignment, it's a bit odd. And the reason why it's a bit odd, the reason why you have, for example, in the centre, things placed dead centre like that, but then other things being off-centre like that, is because these ruins have been designed as an obstacle course. And this is one of the things which has always interested me about this concept of archaeogaming, computer game archaeology, is that these ruins, yes, they are in that sense a valid cultural construction. Someone has taken the time to design them, but they go against so many of the basic. So for example, here, a basic rule, as it were, of alignment and architecture that's fairly universal is here we have a fairly clear central line running to the south, and then almost immediately along here we get this first big break in terms of what. So on this side of the central line you have that, on this side of the central line you have that. Very different architecture, and it's not that one has fallen down and the other one hasn't. This here has this very pronounced upper floor. This one here has simply some blocks creating an arch. So it feels archaeologically wrong, and I think that's what I find most interesting about this whole thing, is that it does feel designed in that sense. But it is also very pleasing, and I guess in terms of the in-game world, this north-south corridor is linking the town in the distance there to this. So underneath the great big rock, supported by lots of smaller rocks, we have the ice house. So let's talk to Anche. Oh, talk about great timing. Can you deliver some ice to Ferosa again? Usually I'm the one who's supposed to deliver it, but lately there have been more and more monsters skulking around here, so I can't be away from the ice house. Oh. Of course, before you carry the ice, I'll have to ask you to pay 50 rupees in advance. Once you've delivered it, Ferosa should be reimburse you the cost of the ice. If you deliver it quickly, she'll give you a reward for your effort too. Yeah, okay. So we're going to deliver some ice. Now, this is actually also something that's interesting in terms of being a desert culture. Ice is a valuable commodity, so presumably all the ruins leading to the ice house highlight how important ice is to these people. Now, in terms of the end-game world, the reason why this ice is important is because it is used in the there's a hotel/bar where they make a really rather nice drink. What I'm just going to do, I'm just going to change my clothing to sand shoes. Should help me run a bit quicker. There we go. I'm going to try and stick to the shadows. Try not to get hit by too many monsters. Off we go. Now, presumably, when this place was built, and before it became ruined, there weren't monsters around. So we can imagine that people probably came with great reverence to the ice house. Maybe they came in large numbers, and this is the reason why we have this sort of gathering area in the middle with arches on both sides. Oh, this is another gathering area. Oh, so there's two along the length. So this is gathering area number 1. Oh, can we get away? I think we can. Oh. I think this is going to be a dead end. So if I throw and climb and pick up. There we go. And this is gathering area number 2. The one that we examined with the fallen arch. So yes, with these sort of gathering areas along the way. Maybe there were... Oh no, the fire's going to melt the ice. The fire did melt the ice. Oh, never mind. The ice melted. Maybe people would gather to see the ice being ran, as it were. Maybe it was almost like a running of the bowls or something like that. Perhaps there was a very particular set of rules as to who could see the ice, where it came from. Maybe people could only approach so close to the ice house. You know, it raises some interesting in-universe questions. And had I made it all the way, there would have been a lady stood here on this pedestal that we pointed out at the beginning, ready to receive the ice. I quite like this set of ruins because it highlights two things. It highlights the fact that people do create very distinct processual ways, and also the alignment when it doesn't respect any other alignment around it. In this case, north-south. That tells you something about people's intentions. They wanted to really mark the area. But I also like the way that this particular set of ruins breaks the rules. It's not symmetrical, and as I say, as an archaeologist, it feels not of this earth. And that's because it's not of this earth. It's because it is indeed from a computer game. Anyway, let's head over to the second point of interest, and that is all the way over there. But I'm not going to run over there. I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to teleport over there. So here we are arriving at another shrine, and these are just like little puzzle houses that occupy and turn up in throughout the world map. But this particular shrine is dead center, if you look at the map, in the middle of these ruins, the East Gerudo ruins in the Gerudo Desert. And these ruins are colossal statues. They are statues that are almost too big to believe. They're on par with the Argonath in J.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. They're truly massive. There are a series of large female statues, which fits in with the all-female society of Gerudo town. And each statue seemingly has been carved out of rock and is holding a sword. Or rather, is leaning upon a sword. Now, we can tell something about this particular site in terms of its mode of construction. First of all, we have remnants, I think, of the construction left behind. People have been carving this out of rock and putting in rudimentary wooden scaffolding along the way. Again, you have a sort of a Mesoamerican-ish, hints of sort of North American-ish motif, sort of Native American motifs in terms of the rock art. But I particularly like the fact that yes, you do actually get to see something of the construction. Sorry, I'm completely messing about here. Let's get on to the. There we go. So it doesn't look like it's made out of individual bricks, not necessarily. It looks as though actually the rock has been dressed by masons. And that makes sense. I mean, it'd be really quite difficult to build something like this out of individual stones. But it does look as though that this rock has been separated from a sort of a basin of rock that surrounds it. So perhaps this was one huge rock, or huge series of rocks, which the locals in the past decided to turn into these very impressive Seven Sisters. Okay, so here we are finally on the ramp after a bit of faffing, if I'm honest. But we're going to have a beautiful moonlit view of the statues. You can see that we're only just at arm or hand height on this statue. So we climb up this ladder here, and this is actually the only one, incidentally, that has this much in the way of scaffolding on it, of these statues. Climb to the top, and we actually get to see all of these seven sisters, as it were, in their full glory. Now, there's something else that we can tell about the mode of construction, and that's because this sister, this statue here, is missing her sword. As we sort of gently glide down, we can see that the sword is not, actually hasn't broken the hand as it's fallen, hasn't broken away from the hand, it has simply fallen. And here is the sword hilt here, and the sword handle, and the cross guard, as it were, next to the blade stuck in the sand. So we can tell that actually the swords are separate pieces of stone. I don't know how that's possible, but nonetheless apparently it is something which they've managed to achieve. And there is an element in the game, a sort of a side quest, which I won't spoil for you here, but it does involve finding the eighth sister and also her sword. So the eighth warrior is somewhere away from the desert, but her sword, crucially, is separate from her. And again, there's no sign of breakage. There's no the hand and the sword hilt are separate bits of stone. So, you know, this is an impressive monument, truly monumental, and in that sense, not remotely realistic. And this is one of the reasons why I love ruins in computer games. They can be larger than life. Now, here we have a series of basins in which were placed a series of balls. This was a part of the game that I did earlier in order to reveal this blue shrine here. But and the reason why I'm mentioning that is just in case you're curious as to what on earth are these things. But I just wanted just to show you an element of the architectural and archaeological landscape here in the desert. It may be bleak in places, but in other places they've clearly put in an awful lot of effort. And in that sense, it's reminiscent of places like Peru. It's reminiscent of, obviously, ancient Egypt. But in this particular case, yes, okay, you can argue that this is similar to the Sphinx, or for example to the statues of Ramesses, but these are a completely different order of scale. And they're also a completely different manufacturing process in some respects. I mean, I suppose Abu Simbel has some similarities, but the statues of Ramesses at Abu Simbel don't sit, aren't expected to stand, quite literally, up like this, and certainly don't have separate weapons that are standing proud, made of one piece of stone. So it's an interesting spot. Anyway, a sandstorm is rolling in, so I think it's time to move on to the place that we were requested to take a look at, and that is the Akkala Citadel ruins. Here we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, been to this shrine. Okay, so here we are arriving at the shrine, and the ruins that we're interested in are up there, but that's not where we're going to start our investigation of the ruins. We are going to head, first of all, to the Akkala bridge. I should probably change my clothes, actually. Let's dress like a classic Link. There we go. Nice green hat. Okay, off we go. So first of all, I want to head to the bridge. Now the bridge is over here, the Akkala Bridge ruins. Now I've already said in a previous video about this game how much I admire and adore the graphical quality of the game. They've really gone for an art style which is, it's certainly not photorealistic by any means, but it's halfway between a real sense of the world and I suppose a highly designed, almost sort of Studio Ghibli style sense of the world, and nature in particular, and the way that the world unfolds in the exploring of it. Anyway, here we are at the ruins. Now the Citadel was attacked, as lots of places were, by these things, these guardian robots, which are scary when they're not deactivated like this, or frankly they're scary when they are deactivated like this. I'm just going to help this person here get out a funky sword, blizzard rod. There we go. I'll set him up, you knock him down. There we go. There we go. So these are the ruins of the Akkala bridge. Now this chap here, actually, I think he's trying to get there. Nell. When you look at these massive structures and the ruined cities, you really get a sense of what we lost, he says. I wish I could get a closer look, but I don't have a death wish. If you're headed for the Citadel, be very careful. So that's Nell, and he is desperate to head over there, but we're not going to head over there just yet. Instead, I want to talk a little bit about this area just here. This is the parade grounds, the Akkala plains and Akkala parade grounds, and it's overlooked by this platform here, which is in the distance as far as we're concerned, just over there. It's a bit hard to see from here, so what I'll do is I'll just head over there. I might speed up the video as I head over there. And here we are. Got there eventually. So this is the platform overlooking the parade grounds, and on it we have 4 cannons, or cannon, I suppose, to use the technical proper usage of the plural. The parade ground is nicely planted with trees, and you can imagine that they probably had a fairly peaceful time outside this citadel, in so much as they had time to set up parade grounds. They had time to have these cannons, presumably presumably saluting dignitaries and the people on the platform here, organising and inspecting the troops. So this is part of the story of the Citadel as well, is a time before it was besieged, a time when it was in relative peace, as opposed to when it was in pieces. See what I did there? Anyway, let's head back to the bridge. I think I might speed up the video again. And here we are. So we've now climbed up the side of the ravine, and we can truly see the ruin of the bridge, the collapsed central pillar there, and the parade grounds beyond. And that's the beginning, I suppose, of our interpretation, but also in some ways the end of the story. The bridge was presumably destroyed as an act of desperation during the siege to keep those robots out, the monsters at bay. Speaking of monsters, here's one. There we go. Might have to... There we go. And I think I shall change my armour, because we have some live flying versions of the Guardian robots, which I'm sure you've seen. Just over there, there's one. But here is a wagon, again in ruins, and presumably this was during the siege, people trying to take refuge in the Citadel, and presumably failing. and we see the bottom of the stairs at the other end of the bridge there. But also interestingly, again, from an interpretive standpoint, we have another entranceway to the stairs just here. Again, I think underlining the fact that this space outside the Citadel was relatively relaxed, relatively peaceful, and people could approach with relative ease when they weren't in times of war. Now I'm just going to do something else. Get out a particular boat, just in case we come across one of those, or bow and arrow, in case we come across one of those flying guardians. Oh, shoo. The Citadel is, as its name suggests, a citadel. It's presumably quite hard, easy to defend, hard to approach sort of space. There we go. One hit wonder. Will I get any of the loot, or will it all fall down the cliff? No, it's all falling down the cliff. I'm not going to go and get that. But yeah, these steep steps around the edge of a rocky, craggy mountainside. It was a very defendable spot. It's similar in some respects to some of the things that we see, or certainly I'm familiar with this sort of architecture in the approach to, say, castles in North Wales, where I'm from. Certainly we see similar sort of use of landscape in and around the Great Wall of China. Steep, easily defendable stairways that expose those coming up the stairs. Ah, rats. Yep, thought that might happen. And that's why I wore the special armour. There we go. Will I get loot this time? Yes. There we go. Now, despite the defensive stairs, clearly they still had courtyards and things. For example, halfway up the hill here, the mountain here. Sorry. It's again, it's a testament to this balance between the military function of the area and the fact that it clearly was accustomed to peace as well. Anyway, just need to get rid of that chap. Won't bother with him because he's a silver orc and I haven't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that, as the lady says. But yes, anyway, so halfway up we have a courtyard which could be used as a sort of as a redoubt in defence, but also undoubtedly added to the relatively pleasant atmosphere, presumably, when people weren't being besieged. And we're almost at the top, and here we are. Now the top, it's worthwhile saying, has been corrupted by the big bad guy in the game, so it's got this purple gunk everywhere. But what I shall do is there we go. Head across here. And when I can, I shall investigate the archaeology that's left behind. Notice that despite years of being surrounded by black, purple gunk and monsters, there's still red carpet on the floor. Again, this is the kind of luxury that you don't normally see in a typical sort of castle, as it were. This is much more like a palace, isn't it? This is a place that, again, as I say, with the architecture and the parade ground below and the courtyard halfway up the stairs, this is a place that's also seen times of peace. So this red carpet that's still actually, it's in quite good condition considering it's outdoors, is doing quite well. Also, as an in-game design point, I really appreciate the way that the trees on top of the mountain here are all suffering because they're so close to this purple gunk, so they're all orange. They're not green like trees further down the mountainside. They're suffering. Oh, that guy's not dead. Can I hide behind the tree? I can hide behind the tree. Whew. Okay. Get one of my blue arrows out, and really it's the only way to get these guys early on in the game. Well, frankly, they're still difficult when you're not prepared. But once you get hold of those blue arrows, it becomes easier. Life becomes easier. Anyway, we want to try and let's get up there, shall we? And get over there. So. But as I was hinting at before in terms of the overall design of the game, as I say, nature plays a strong part, and in that sense, nature here is reflecting the sorry, the mank that I just jumped into for some reason, is reflecting what's happening around it. And here, in the midst of what looks like a collapsed surface, this is probably some sort of under room here, and the whole area has collapsed on itself. At the top we have more cannon. Now interestingly, the cannon are pointing again in the direction of the parade ground, or are they? Because I mean, let's get these leaves out of the way. Hang on, let's pick up this guy here. Yay, I found one. That's just something you have to do in the game. Little Korok. Chuck it off the top there. So the parade ground is down there. Are these cannon pointing at the parade ground, or are they pointing at the direction from which the robots are coming, the monsters are coming? So if we zoom out of the map, what's in that direction? The Zora. Well, this pathway, I guess, and this pathway leads eventually to where the big bad guy is at Hyrule Castle. So, I suppose there's a certain logic to the direction of the cannon then. Maybe they're not there to salute the troops or to guide formations. Maybe they are literally there for defence. Maybe they're all pointing in the direction from which the enemy are coming. Yeah, that would make sense. I thought that was a castle in the distance. It's not just a rock formation. Now, do we have a room over there? We certainly have a little fire. There we go. Is this a prison or a storeroom, perhaps, below with the barred windows? Although there is some barred windows above as well. Notice it started to rain, so the fire's gone out. Can we find any more evidence of cannon around? So far, the only cannon I see are pointing, broadly speaking, to the south. Let's see. Oh, no, let's climb. Up we go. Now, because the walls are wet, because it's raining, it's a bit hard to climb. Hope we can get up there. Excellent. Up here. And really, that's just that's a tower that is part of the game, but isn't really part of this architecture. That's sprung up amidst the ruin. I'm quite intrigued by these areas and underneath as well. Presumably lots of storage areas. I guess most citadels would need them. Nope. Need a weapon. There we go. And there we have it, really. I can tell a little bit about the story of the Citadel, in so much as it does seem to have been a relatively opulent place. In that sense, it's actually quite similar to a place called Warkworth Castle, which I'm very familiar with. It's like a local castle to where I live now in the northeast of England. Warkworth was converted under Henry VIII, or the time of Henry VIII, into something of a part-time holiday home, part-time fortress. That's kind of what this place feels like. There's one final thing that's worthwhile noting, and that is, which I've been sort of avoiding saying, and that is that in the game there is actually a narrative, a bit of sort of story that you uncover that tells you about how actually the Citadel was one of the last places in all of Hyrule to survive against the siege of the Guardians and the robots and the bad guys. So yeah, this was one of the last bastions of freedom when the whole world was being overrun by the robot monsters below. With that tells me it's a bit cold. I better change into some warm clothes. Let's put on a warm tunic, shall I? Let's see. There we go. That's better. So there you have it. Hopefully you found this video interesting and or useful. Yeah, this isn't a traditional Zelda gameplay video, is it? This is much more of an archaeological exploration, and I do truly believe that actually there's something to be gained from just thinking about these worlds in a slightly different way. It helps, I think, appreciate the game design, but also it helps, I think, reflect on archaeological theory. There's something to be learned from not only what's right, but what's wrong, and also the reasons for why you can get away with different rules in computer games. It helps you think about archaeology in different ways. Anyway, we've seen everything we wanted to see today. We've gone from Gerudo Desert to the Akkala Citadel, and I think that's enough. As ever guys, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.